On the 16th of January 1947, inside an execution chamber in Moscow, a German general was allegedly coldly hanged after being convicted of war crimes during the Second World War. Helmuth von Pannwitz was an experienced military officer who would fight during 2 world wars, and he rose to the top of the German military and rubbed shoulders with other generals and Adolf Hitler. He was accused of leading many different soldiers to commit atrocities and slaughter against the civilian population, and some of the war crimes that were reported involving Pannwitz's soldiers were harrowing. But what is the story of his execution? Join us today to look at the execution of the German general, executed by the Soviets. And as always, to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Helmuth von Pannwitz was born into a family of Prussian nobles in what today is considered Poland. As a young man, he was part of the Prussian cadet school, and it was clear that he would undertake a career in the military. Before the First World War broke out, he was interested in the Cossack units, which were set up in towns nearby, but as a cadet officer, Pannwitz, when the First World War broke out, joined the Imperial German Army as a volunteer, and he was at the age of 16 promoted to the rank of second lieutenant. He was seen as a talented future leader in the German Army, and he would at a very young age be decorated with the Iron Cross Second Class for bravery. But following the war, he was part of the Freikorps, and they fought against the Polish separatists, and he was involved in the Kapp Putsch. Helmuth von Pannwitz was then accused of being a suspect in the murder of a political opponent, but he then fled to Poland, where he was involved in other politically motivated murders. He became a leader in other groups, but then in 1931 he was granted amnesty for his crimes, and he then returned to Germany following this. He then became a Stabsführer of the SA in Silesia, and he took control of a cavalry squadron of brown shirts. Von Pannwitz was also working alongside the Gestapo during the Night of the Long Knives, and he was then invited to join the Nazi Party, and he rejoined the German army in 1935. In 1938, after the Anschluss, he was sent to Austria to become a detachment commander of the cavalry regiment. However, as the Second World War broke out, he commanded a recon detachment who saw action in the invasions of Poland and France. But he continued to be decorated and received the Knight's Cross and Oak Leaves a year later for his military leadership, when he was drafted to the Eastern Front, where he led soldiers covering the southern flank during the Battle of Stalingrad. But he then created a Cossack group of soldiers, the Cossack Cavalry Brigade, in April 1943, who took part in anti-partisan activities in Belarus and Ukraine. These soldiers fought partisans, and they were seen as a useful tool for the Germans, who were constantly annoyed and hit by the partisans. Pannwitz's brigade carried out operations in Serbia and Croatia, and they would conduct horrific slaughter of the civilians. They would carry out large-scale assault and execution. They would round up innocent people and would shoot them quickly, but Pannwitz would then issue orders regarding these, as he was concerned that this sort of behaviour would lead to mutiny. He would even stand up for himself against Hitler, and would state that the Nazi policies which led to the mass execution of the Slavs were wrong and inhumane. But there were upgrades to his Cossack divisions, and Pannwitz was then made a general. He would allow his soldiers to attend Russian Orthodox services, and he was a popular leader, but by the end of the Second World War the SS seized control of all foreign units of the German army. Himmler came to an agreement with von Pannwitz, and he said that his division was to become part of the SS in terms of supply and replacements, but the Cossacks were allowed to keep their uniforms and their ranks. Pannwitz refused to become an SS member to begin with, and he said, "I've been in the army since I was 15. To leave it now would seem like desertion." But Himmler wanted Helmuth von Pannwitz to take control of all Cossack forces, but the general then consented, and he joined the SS, switching from the German military. Pannwitz surrendered on the 11th of May 1945 to the British and Austria, and he wanted to make sure that his soldiers were imprisoned by the Western Allies, but they were then transferred to the Soviet Union, and they would be treated much worse. Pannwitz was a German national, and was not to be repatriated to the Soviet Union under the Yalta Agreement, but he was then placed on a transport of Cossacks, and he would be arrested by the Soviets. One British report regarding his transfer to the Soviet Union said that von Pannwitz clearly wanted to dissociate his German officers, and ultimately himself, from the Cossacks, who were traitors to their country. Even when General von Pannwitz stepped out of the vehicle which had conveyed him across the Russian border, he was obviously surprised to see the Russians throwing up his arms, exclaiming, "Mein Gott!" But he was then imprisoned for some time, but the circumstances regarding his execution remain rather sketchy. It's known that inside of Moscow, and specifically inside of the Fortovo prison, von Pannwitz was executed. It became a place which was notorious as a site of NKVD execution during the Great Purge, and it's believed that he was hanged inside of the prison. He may have also possibly been shot. He had been found guilty of war crimes against the Soviet people during the Second World War. There were attempts to rehabilitate Pannwitz's reputation after the war, but this was turned down eventually after it was considered that he was a Nazi war criminal. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.